the stamp duty is not a thing of now. Stamp duty is an issue of federation account, and that has been the issue since Ordinance 41 of 1939. Outside that, there were subsequent amendments in 1942, some other amendments in 1947, there are amendments in 1957, then the consolidation, which is now popularly referred to as Stamp Duties Act Cap 6 S8 LFN 2004 as amended. The Finance Act 2 has also put to rest a lot of things, particularly the fact that this is tax payable to federation account. And for that ambiguity to be removed, it substituted the word Federal Government of Nigeria and replaced them with Federal Inland Revenue Service.
That was Executive Chairman FIRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board at the inauguration of the Interministerial Committee on Audit and Recovery of Back Year Stamp Duties on the 30th of June 2020. And that is the main menu on today's episode of Tax Matters, Stamp Duties. My name is Chamako Haochi and the program is Tax Matters. The Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary simply defines stamp duty as a tax on legal documents. Stamp duty has been a recurrent feature of Nigeria's legal and financial systems from the pre-independence era. And as you heard from Mr. Nami, stamp duty as a tax type is not new. The original stamp duty legislation was enacted in 1939. Today, the law is known as the Stamp Duty Act SA, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. The law provides a statutory basis for imposing duties on executable and dutiable instruments. The Act, amongst other things, imposes stamp duty on written or electronic instruments, agreements, contracts, receipts, deeds of assignment, lease agreement, mortgage, promissory notes, and a host of others. Under the Act, stamp duty may be levied either at an ad valorem or flat rate, depending on the type or nature of the instrument. Ad valorem means according to value. The implementation of the Stamp Duty Act was further given fillip, or sharper teeth if you like, by the Finance Act 2019 and was further amended by the Finance Act 2020. On Tuesday, the 25th of April 2017, the Stamp Duty Directorate of the FIRS organized a training program on Integrated Stamp Duty Service, ISDS, in Abuja. Essentially, what Integrated Stamp Duty Service entails is a migration from the era of manual paper-based stamp duty to the electronic stamp duty. Fast forward to year 2020. On Tuesday, the 30th of June 2020, the federal government took yet another giant step towards maximizing revenue from stamp duty, including sums or duties, if you like, collected by financial institutions but not remitted into government coffers. On that day, the federal government inaugurated the Interministerial Committee on Audit and Recovery of Back Year Stamp Duties with a view to repositioning Nigeria towards greater revenue mobilization. So, how do you protect yourself in a contract? How do you preserve your title or ownership of a landed property? Our guest on this episode is Hajia Aminado, Director Emerging and Special Tax Department at the FIRS. Hajia Ado, thank you for joining us on Tax Matters.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Ma, we're looking at stamp duties, as earlier pointed out on our introduction. Now, what was the collection for stamp duties and electronic money transfer levy in 2021? And how does that compare to prior years?
In 2021, we collected 25.5 billion naira as stamp duties, while we collected 114 billion as electronic money transfer levy in 2021. Now, as you rightly mentioned, in 2020, the two were combined. So we collected 120 billion for the two taxes in 2020. That's an increase of 16%, which is quite a good performance. And if you look at prior years, stamp duty was really very low. In 2015, for example, only about 7 billion naira was collected. So the transformation and the innovation of the electronic money transfer levy and also other electronic means of collecting taxes has really helped increase and reinvigorate the stamp duty itself, which has moved from 7 billion to 25.5 billion, and also the 114 billion we collected for EMTL in 2021.
Very commendable. Now, when we say stamp duties, on which instruments does the FIRS collect stamp duty?
I will add that, as you are aware probably, the stamp duty is collected both by the FIRS on behalf of the Federation or the state revenue services on behalf of the various state governments. Now, at the federal level, that's for FIRS, we collect for companies as well as, or transactions between a company and an individual, or transactions between a group of individuals. So, for example, a partnership. Now, if a transaction is between individuals, it is collected by the state or FCT. Now, there are various instruments. There are actually more than 50 instruments that are dutable. So I will stick with the very important ones, the ones that people usually have. So, for example, when you do a lease, you have to pay stamp duty depending on the tenure of the lease, ranging from 1 to 7 years, which is at 0.78% ad valorem, or if it is more than 8 years, you have a particular percentage also ad valorem, which means is a percent of the amount paid. Another one that our viewers may also be very familiar with is when you take a mortgage. Now, there is a 0.375%, and also when you do a transfer of property or you do a deed of assignment, there is 1.5% of the value. And also if you take a long-time loan with a bank, there is a 0.125% of the value as stamp duties. Now, there are some instruments that are charged at a flat rate of 500 naira or an amount as specified in the Act. Such include, for example, a memorandum of understanding, or a power of attorney, or a notary document that is being notarized, or some other instruments like that. There are quite a number of them which are specified in the schedule to the Act. So those are the type of instruments. And if you also go onto the website that we have specifically dedicated for stamp duty, all these instruments are listed with the amount payable.
Okay, permit us to go a little bit controversial. Now, there was a time where there was a struggle, if you like, between FIRS and NIPOS as to whose remit it was to collect stamp duties. We also recall that the National Assembly waded into the matter. Now, how do things stand now?
I would say that it wasn't really, I won't call it a struggle. I would say a misunderstanding, because both NIPOS and FIRS are agencies of government, and we don't have a choice but to comply with the law. Now, the 2019 Finance Act actually made it very clear that FIRS is the agency that is responsible for collecting stamp duties. And then the Finance Act 2020 further clarified that if an adhesive stamp is required, then FIRS should get it from NIPOS. Now, of course, based on what we have said in this program, it is clear to our viewers that stamp duty is different from adhesive stamp. So clearly, FIRS is the agency of government, the only tax collecting authority apart from the ones by the state government that is authorized to collect stamp duty. To this end, we have branches in all the 36 states. Actually, there are 2 in Lagos and 1 in each state, and also in FCT, where a stamp duty office where you can do all your transactions should you want to do it physically, or alternatively, you go to Tax Pro Max, which is our in-house portal, or stampduty.gov.ng and do your stamp duty transactions, and you will get a certificate automatically.
All right, ma'am. Now, how have you deployed technology in collection of stamp duties?
As I've said, if you want to pay your stamp duty now, obviously you don't pay cash. Tax is not paid in cash. If you go to the stampduty.gov.ng, that's the website, the portal, or taxpromax.firs.gov.ng, you will be able to pay your taxes from your office without going anywhere. So we have used technology extensively, and obviously we also, all our systems are automated. So we're able to see on a daily basis the stamp duties that has been collected.
Ma, we also recall that the threshold for electronic money transfer levy on electronic bank transfers was revised. Now, what is the current threshold and how do things stand now?
The current threshold is 10,000 naira. So if you do a transaction, a transfer of 10,000 or above, you pay a flat fee of 50 naira, which is supposed to be remitted by all financial institutions. So that's where we are today, is on 10,000 naira and above. In the past, it was 1,000 naira. That was the threshold.
Interesting. It seems you have separated the electronic money transfer levy from stamp duties. Now, what is the sharing formula for electronic money transfer levy between the 3 tiers of government?
Yes, you are right. It has been separated. So we now have EMTL, and the sharing is different compared to the stamp duty. And the sharing is 15% to the federal government and 85% to the state governments. Remember, in 2020, we collected 120 billion. At that time, it was the same kind of concept. But from 2021, the electronic money transfer levy was named the EMTL, yeah? So it's now reported separately, and it is accounted for separately.
Now, how do you monitor the banks on electronic money transfer levy?
Yes, thank you for that question. We monitor the banks, like I said, on a daily basis. We see the remittance by all the banks on our platform. We have an online platform that shows us how much is collected. You can check it, it's online real time. As money is flowing in, we can monitor it. So we know which bank is remitting or not. That's financial institutions. What we have noticed is the commercial banks or the deposit money banks plus the merchant banks and the non-interest banks are generally compliant in the sense that they remit the funds they have collected. Whether that is correct or not, of course, is subject to audit. But what we have noticed is the mortgage banks and the fintechs with microfinance bank license are not very diligent. We have engaged them and we have reminded them that it is their responsibility, according to the law, to deduct this naira 50 naira and remit it to the EMTL account details that have been shared with them through the Central Bank of Nigeria. So I'm reminding these banks, that these financial institutions that are not compliant, mostly the mortgage banks and the fintechs with microfinance banks, that the law is very clear. The EMTL is meant to be deducted by all financial institutions, and they are financial institutions, irrespective of whether they are, a fintech, so they don't have a physical office, or they have a physical office. They have to do it. It is the law, or they risk incurring penalties.
Now, could you please take us through the process of paying stamp duties on FIRS Tax Pro Max and also on the stamp duties portal?
Okay, the FIRS Tax Pro Max portal, that is taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Now, if you are a registered taxpayer, you are meant to get to register on Tax Pro Max. If you have not done so, you can do that through your tax office. Once you register, you will get your username and you will have a password that you change, and you can log on to this website, taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Now, on the home page, you will see a section that says group taxes. When you click on that, you will see the stamp duty, something labeled stamp duty. When you click on it, it's self-explanatory. All you have to do is there's a button there where you can download a template. You download the template, you fill it with the instrument that you want to have stamped, the amount, the rate, and then you upload. When you upload, it will automatically read the document and then display what you are supposed to do, including a reference number that you can use to pay on the platform of Remita or any of the other payment gateways. And once you do that, a certificate is automatically generated and sent to the email you have registered as your email for Tax Pro Max. It's just that on Tax Pro Max, because the Tax Pro Max generally is mostly corporations that deal with FIRS. So if you're an individual, you are more likely going to find it easier to use the stampduty.gov.ng when you have a transaction between you and a corporate body. But of course, if it is individual to individual, you have to go to the relevant state tax authority and pay the assessed stamp duty.
I'm a very busy man. My business involves a lot of traveling and I interface with lots and lots of people and organizations. Tax compliance used to be a big drag on my business. It was time consuming and very costly. But now, no more. Introducing the FIRS Tax Pro Max, the truly fully end-to-end tax administration solution for companies' income tax, value-added tax, petroleum profits tax, and all other tax types. For fast, efficient, and convenient end-to-end tax experience, log on to www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Tax Pro Max has turned things around for me. It is fast, user-friendly, and cost-effective. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC.
Our guest took us through the process of using Tax Pro Max to file and pay for stamp duties. We also want to take you through the process of doing same on the stamp duty portal. In the course of finalizing this report, we visited the FIRS Stamp Duty Office, Abuja, located at Yobe House in the Central Business District, and they availed us of this knowledge.
If you want to pay for stamp duty, you need to log on to our website, the www.stampduty.gov.ng. When the stamp duty site will come up, for the first time user, you're going to click on sign up. It will display on the sign up button that we have individual accounts, we have the corporate account, and we have the MDA account. For individuals, you're going to fill in your name, your phone number, email, you select your gender, your country of residence, state, then your username, password, and you confirm your password. And for corporate entities, you enter the TIN. You click on Retrieve TIN. The system will retrieve the information about displaying the email address, the phone number, his address. Then where there's no any, the box has not been filled, he's going to fill up his the information there. Then he will now, the contact person is going to fill in his name, his middle name, his last name, his email address, his phone number, then his user's name and password, and confirms his password. Then he clicks on create account. After that, a verification link will be sent to his email. And once he goes to his email and click on verify button, once he does that, he goes back to his login detail. Go back to login, click on login. Once he clicks on login, he enters his username and his password, like I have here. So once he clicks on the login, after entering, so it will display the information there. Then after that, then he goes to stamp duty, pay for stamp duty. Once he clicks on that, we have almost 54 instruments. So then the taxpayer selects the instrument he wants to pay for. For example, if the taxpayer wants to pay, for example, for contract agreement, maybe the government gives him contracts and he wants to pay for contract, he clicks on contract agreement. He pops out. Then you have party. We have two parties. We have client and contractor. For example, if FIRS gives him contracts, he's going to click on client. For the first time, the system will ask him, will you like to select from the list of the previous party? For a first-time user, he doesn't have any parties on it. So he'll click on no, then enters the party and it does federal. Then after entering his information, he clicks on save and add next. The system will add up the party successfully. Then next is going to select the second party again, that's the contractor. Corporate Affairs Commission. So the two parties are successfully entered. So we now ask for the date of contract. We now ask how much was the contract was given. So we click on save and add next. So thereby adding the two parties. So the system will take us to the next page where we're going to input the description of the contract, what type of contract it is. So the description of the contracts. After that, we click on save and add next. The system will now tell us the 1% of the 10,000 naira. The 1% of 10,000 naira is 100 naira. So, and this is the summary page which is giving us all the description. So for us to make payment, we now click on remitter and click on proceed. It's giving us the remitter number. The person would like to print his own information and go to bank and make payment, or if he has a remitter account, he can click on remitter account and pay, or he can go directly to remitter and pay. So what we are going to do is that we're going to go to remitter directly and make payments. It has taken us to remitter platform. We are paying 100 naira. So we'll click on submit and make payment. We can use the USSD to make payment as well too. So the payment is successful now. We now click on view transactions because our payment is successful up to now. So we click. So this is the contract agreement and it's telling us view certificate. We click on view certificate. Here we have our stamp duty certificate.
We must say that we found the Yobe House Stamp Duty Office a model office. Conducive environment, staff that are ready to help, fast and efficient service. Back to our guest. Now, are there other areas with regards to stamp duty you would like to enlighten our dear viewers on?
Well, the stamp duty, as you know, is one of the oldest taxes that we have actually. But a lot of people are not aware of it. But most of us, once in a while, we do a declaration of age or we do some stuff and then we stick a stamp on it. So maybe that's the kind of awareness we've had. But it's a very important tax because if you need to have something to give us evidence in the court, if you have a contract and you don't get it stamped, or if you have a lease and you don't get it stamped and then you get into a dispute, you cannot tender it as evidence. So it's actually a very important tax. And also remember, if you do a transfer of property, again, for your own comfort and security that you actually have that property, it has been properly assigned to you, you have to pay the stamp duty. So it's actually a very important tax, especially when you have problems and you need to get the courts to enforce your contract or your right of ownership. It is very important that you pay your stamp duty. And of course, there are penalties if you don't pay when you should. But generally, we urge clients, taxpayers, to be compliant, not necessarily because of the penalty, but because as good citizens, you either cooperate or individual, you have to pay your taxes, because that is how you will ensure good governance and a good quality of life. It is your tax money that is used to provide all the comfort that you need as a citizen.
Ajira Aminado, Director, Emerging and Special Tax Department at the FRS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
There you are, stamp duties. Once again, on your behalf, we thank Ajira Aminado and we enjoin you to go out there and do the needful. As you have heard, stamp duty is not only about revenue collection, it is about securing your documents, your purchases now and in the future. Let's meet again on this platform next week. Same day of the week, same time of the day. Thank you for watching.